Has your boss ever corrected a typo after you've sent an email? Or even better, have they ever had you do something over and over again, changing it to the point that now it's exactly the way it was when you first started? If this is sounding familiar, you're not alone. And in today's episode, I'm going to show you 4 easy ways that you can work for this difficult personality type while still keeping your sanity, just so that the office assistant, hopefully, does not have to call security the next time your boss corrects something. Now, one of the most exciting things about actually learning how to work with a perfectionist type of personality is it's going to help you realize that you really are in control of your responses to these kinds of things. So it's going to help you untap that personal power that you can use in your professional life, especially when your boss is driving you nuts, so much so that you're seriously considering that a prison term might actually be worth it. So instead of doing that, I want you to think of a couple of things. One, don't think about quitting. Let's instead think about facing the problem. Sure, you could look for another job elsewhere, and if it really gets horrible and no strategy works, then yeah, dust off your resume. In fact, do you know I can help you with your resume? So we can talk about that. Go ahead and think about this. When your boss is really driving you nuts because they're such a perfectionist and you are seriously thinking that a prison term might be worth it, think about the fact that facing the challenges are going to bring some of the benefits we're going to talk about. In addition to that, do some other kinds of things that are healthy. Go ahead and vent to family and friends, okay? And if you leave the office at 5 o'clock and you have a 20-minute commute, I would recommend calling someone in your household and letting them know that at 5:21 you might need a cocktail, or else you're going to take out your frustrations on them. And by the way, if you're new to my channel, I'm Dr. Dawn, CEO and founder of DrDawn Shop Talk. We're a career consulting company that specializes in corporate training and empowering women at all stages of their career. So if you need some more information or some of my free downloadables, I've got one. Oh my gosh, you would love it, called What to Do When Your Office is Driving You Nuts. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you exactly how you can get your free copy of that. So remember, you don't have to take this career journey alone. That's what a career coach is for. Reach out to me. I'd love to help. All right, now, speaking of that, let's make sure we get to why you're here. You're here to find out what to do when working with a perfectionist, especially that person's your boss. So here's how we're going to start that, okay? I want you to start by thinking of the word DAMP, D-A.M.P, because I don't want your boss or anyone to dampen your enthusiasm for your career and for the work that you do. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take that word DAMP, and those are going to be our 4 strategies, each letter standing for a different strategy that you can put in place right now. Okay, so let's think about this. When you think about a perfectionist and the fact that they can drive you nuts and really make you feel undervalued, I want you to realize that if you do let them dampen your enthusiasm very much, there's a couple of things that are going to happen. One, it's not a good look for you or for your emotional state of mind for you to be crying on a daily basis and venting about how horrible your boss is. You don't want to do that, okay? Not only is your family going to probably either put you on suicide watch or homicide watch, but you want to make sure that you're not giving your boss that much power. Yes, the relationship between the boss and an employee can be tricky. They do have a lot of influence on your career. But remember that if a boss is being abusive in any way, you're going to go to HR. If it's gotten to that point, you do need to draw some healthy lines in the sand. And I got some episodes about healthy boundaries. So whether it's at home or in the office, you need to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because you really do teach people how to treat you. So beyond that, I want you to remember that these 4 action steps are going to really help you realize a couple of things about your boss and how to work with that personality, but you're really going to learn a lot about yourself, okay, along the way. So let's take a look at that. All right, so starting with strategy number 1, the D in the word DAMP is going to stand for do not take it personally. Now, that's easier said than done, right? Because if their boss is really on you because of their perfectionism, it's hard not to take that so personally. But it's important that you don't, because like I said earlier, first off, you don't want to give your boss that much power, okay? So again, vent to your family and friends, have a glass of wine. No judgment. Tell your family to have that cocktail ready on standby. Whatever you need to do, you need to take care of yourself and realize that you don't need to take it personally. And here's the second part of that. Another reason that you shouldn't take it personally is perfectionism really has to do with that person. Perfectionism is not a healthy trait, okay? It has a lot more to do with that person than it ever has to do with you. So another way to help you with strategy number one so that you don't take it personally is to realize that if your boss is a true perfectionist, guess what? This is their MO. They not only do this to you, but they definitely do this to themselves. Most likely, they're going to treat everything and everybody in that same way. So if you step back and look at the big picture, it's going to help you with this first strategy, not to take it personally, to realize that is how they are wired, because you got to keep your sanity intact. You don't want that prison term on your record. I know you don't. And in addition to that, you don't want this to spill over into your personal life and affect your family and the way you feel about yourself. So again, strategy number one, do not take it personally. Now, moving on to strategy number two, the A in the word DAMP stands for always pay attention. In other words, I want you to really pay attention to what seems to trigger your boss, because a perfectionist is definitely going to have some very obvious triggers. So picture yourself as a researcher. Pretend your boss is part of some safari. You're out there observing those animals in their natural habitat. And, you might end up feeling like you're in a zoo of some sort or on safari. So do what you can to really step back, pretend you're that researcher, you're taking notes, you're observing what seems to set your boss off into this perfectionist mindset. As soon as you identify what those things are, then you can start creating some action steps to really avoid those. One of those we're going to talk about later, because there is one issue that does seem to trigger most perfectionists. We'll get to that in just a minute. All right, moving on to strategy number three, the letter M in the word DAMP actually stands for mindset. In other words, that mindset can help. When you have the right mindset, since now you've already taken yourself out of the equation, you're not taking it personally now, you're now observing what triggers your boss, and now you're ready for the mindset. So once you've created those first two strategies, right now we're building upon those. When you get to the mindset, you can now take a look at the information you've gathered, and now you can step back and go, well, there are going to be a couple of things I'm actually going to learn about this situation. For example, when you work for a perfectionist, there are going to be some things that you're going to do at that top level, right? Because that perfectionist boss is going to demand it. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say your boss is really a stickler for the way documents are written. And as a result, you end up creating these amazing error-free documents every single time that they leave that office. Well, as a result of that perfectionist that you're having to work for, you're probably going to end up creating some of the best quality work as a result. Now, of course, the way that they're going about it is not the best way. But again, if your mindset is a positive one, and if you approach it from a growth mindset, right, where you're seeing the benefits of actually getting a stronger skill set as a result of working for a perfectionist, if you approach it that way, you're going to be able to really make lemonade out of these lemons that you've been handed, because you're not going to see it from this scarcity mindset where you're thinking, oh my gosh, why me? Oh, and you're just going to be so frustrated and again, take it personally and all those things we talked about. So again, the mindset is that you're going to end up producing probably some really great quality work that you can then take to your next position. If you get to the point where even after establishing healthy boundaries, because again, if your boss is really going over those lines and is really demanding, you've got resources available. Go to HR, talk to them, and yeah, go ahead and maybe be thinking about getting ready for the next career change. But in the meantime, you can learn a lot from a perfectionist. I'm not just saying that because I'm kind of a recovering perfectionist. So be kind to us. But I'm saying that because oftentimes a perfectionist will put more pressure on themselves, I promise you, whatever they're saying to you is probably not even a fraction of what they would say to themselves and to the people closest to them. So if you approach this with a mindset of sympathy and maybe empathy for what the boss is going through. In fact, I've talked about that in some other episodes. I'll be sure to put the link here and in the description bar below. But if you approach it with the right mindset, you can learn a lot, and those skills you can take to your next great opportunity. Moving on to strategy number 4. The P in D.A.M.P stands for punctuality. You guessed it. If you're a perfectionist, being on time is usually one of your biggest triggers. No matter what, they can't stand it. If they see you coming in late to a meeting or taking a longer than usual lunch hour, or you're taking a lot of sick days, even if it's warranted, there's just something about that that tends to trigger a perfectionist, because a perfectionist will almost kill themselves to not miss anything. They'll be the first in the office or the last to leave. Sick days, if they're sick, forget it, well, with the exception of maybe COVID, but before COVID, they would probably come into the office if they weren't running a fever, and they would just work through it because they just kind of saw that as being tough and doing what they needed to do. It's not a healthy response. It's not the right response, but I'm just explaining to you that punctuality could be a trigger. Use this rule of thumb. If you're on time, you're already late. Why? Because number one, you want to build a brand of always getting there a little bit early. You don't want to even take a chance of walking into a meeting and looking disheveled and fumbling for your keys or your purse. That is not the way to look like a powerful career woman that I know you are. Also, if you really kind of push it to the last minute and you think you're going to get there on time, you just never know what's going to happen on that commute. What if all of a sudden there's an unexpected traffic jam? Or next thing you know, that pumpkin spice latte is calling your name and you just have to have it at Starbucks. Or is that just me? So to recap, think of the word damp. The D is do not take it personally. The A is always pay attention, okay? So you're going to look for those triggers. The M is to have that right mindset of all the things you can learn when working for a perfectionist. And the P stands for punctuality, because punctuality is going to help you build that wonderful brand that you want to build for yourself as you either start your career, or if you've been at your career for a number of years like me, it's going to help you continue to get more career opportunities, because they're going to see the quality they have in you, and new opportunities will come about as a result. So if you use these strategies, you guys, even just one of these strategies starting today, you're going to see the pressure kind of get alleviated. You're going to feel lighter and brighter. You're not going to feel as stressed out about having to work for a perfectionist. Now, remember, another thing too to consider is sometimes that boss may not even realize how they're coming across. So although I didn't put that in one of our immediate strategies, it is something you might need to think about if things don't get better by implementing the 4 strategies we talked about today. So if you need help with speaking to your boss about these things, check out this other episode. I'll be sure to put the link here and in the description box. But sometimes you just got to put your big pants on and talk to the boss anyway. So give that feedback. And then if nothing works, okay, maybe you end up having to dust off your resume anyway. But in the meantime, these 4 strategies are going to make your job easier. You're going to feel better about your future ahead. You're going to learn a lot about yourself and how to work with difficult people. Either way, it's going to be a win-win for you. I can explain to you how you can get that free downloadable called What to Do When Your Office is Driving You Nuts. Just head over to the website, find the place on the homepage that says Insider Secrets, click right there, and it will literally say, send me my free cheat sheet. It is that easy. Well, I hope you guys have a great day. Check out these other episodes that can really help you with some of the other things we talked about today, and I'll see you over there. Have a wonderful work day. You deserve it. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.